so long. I'd make a much better daughter than Rose. Please, won't you stay with me forever?
So before I start explaining the story of Resident Evil Village, I would like to say that this is part 1 of 2 of my videos about the game. The first one I'll talk just about the story and explain a few things, while in part 2 it will be more of an analysis of the game alongside a review of the gameplay, themes, music, graphics, etc. I would recommend you to watch a few videos if you haven't caught up with the lore of the franchise. I'll put links in the description below. The main game you need to know is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, and maybe a few other games. Okay, so let's get into the story of Resident Evil Village.
Go move!
Resident Evil Village starts off with a local folktale of a girl who went to collect berries with her mother. The task proves too difficult, and with no berries in hand, the girl wanders off alone, deep into the woods to find more. After wandering for some time, she meets 4 different creatures: a giant bat that gives her its blood so she could quench her thirst, a weaver who weaves a dress so she may stay warm, and the Fish King who gives her his scale so she may satiate her hunger. The last creature she meets is a mechanical iron steed, which has a golden gear on its head. The girl, thinking the gear is another gift, takes it. However, this angers the steed. It summons the other creatures and they fuse together to become a witch. The witch then rebukes the girl, telling her how she took more than she was given and the creatures should be repaid in kind. As a punishment, the witch then traps the girl in a mirror. Before the story can finish, we cut to Ethan and Mia Winters. We play as Ethan Winters, the main protagonist of the previous game. After the events of Resident Evil 7, Mia and Ethan Winters have relocated to Eastern Europe, and they have a daughter called Rosemary, or Rose for short. Mia is reading the previously aforementioned story, but stops short as Rose falls asleep. As they talk, you can sense there's some sort of friction between the two.
Thank God. We moved here so that she wouldn't have to deal with any of that, remember?
There's nothing wrong with my memory. You're just being paranoid.
It's not... Never mind. I'm sorry. But I'm not paranoid. I'm just cautious.
Then, go cautiously take your daughter to bed. I'll finish dinner.
It's okay, Rose. Your mother doesn't want to remember it. I can't blame her.
Did you say something?
Nothing. I'll put her down.
After Ethan interacts with a few objects, Easter eggs and documents, he puts Rose to bed and goes downstairs. Him and Mia are about to start dinner and Ethan mentions how their lives have changed since the events of Resident Evil 7. However, it seems like Mia wants to forget it all and tells him to stop worrying about it. But before she could finish, they are both rudely interrupted.
You are so...
Mia, get down! Mia! Mia, oh God! Chris? What the hell?
Sorry, Ethan.
No! What? Why?
Series protagonist Chris Redfield and his team known as the Hound Wolf Squad take Rose and Ethan captive. Before Ethan can protest, he is shut down by one of Chris's men. While he's knocked out, he starts to recall events between him and Mia when they argued about the true nature of their daughter and possibly himself. Mia was definitely hiding something.
She is in great danger. Since Mother Miranda brought her to the village, we have fallen into darkness.
What are you talking about? The monsters?
After Ethan comes to, it's cold, dark, and he's alone. The transport truck is toppled over and Rose is missing. With nowhere to go, he starts walking deeper into the woods, not knowing what comes next. A few dead crows and some scares later, he enters a shack, and as he explores it, he realizes that there's something more than just animal in these woods. He gets out of the shack, and as dawn breaks, he finally gets to see what lies before him, a village with a castle towering over it. As he enters the village, he sees signs of struggle. He even finds the teddy bear that Rose likes. Coincidence, perhaps? While he explores the seemingly abandoned village, he runs into a villager. The villager, knowing that Ethan isn't the enemy, hands him a gun and starts aiming and shooting at something that Ethan can't see yet. Ethan, being as confused as ever, witnesses a hairy hand break through the ceiling, taking the villager and killing him.
What the? Shit! What was that?
Now this is Ethan's first encounter with the Lycan, the main enemy of Resident Evil Village. They aren't your normal zombies or molded as seen in Resident Evil 7, but they are fast, intelligent, and hunt in packs. After killing his first Lycan and losing a few fingers, Ethan makes his way around the village. He encounters more Lycans and hears a radio transmission telling,
"If there are any survivors out there, come to Louisa's house near the fields."
Survivors?
with arrows flying across the sky and bodies littered throughout the village. Ethan is chased by packs of Lycans, led by a bigger one wielding an immensely large hammer. But before they can kill Ethan, a bell tolls. Wait, I've seen this before.
Bingo?
After healing up, he heads towards an old hag he just saw. She mentions that a woman named Mother Miranda has brought Rose to the village, and since his daughter's arrival, the village has fallen into darkness. Putting two and two together, Ethan realizes that Rose might be either in the village or castle. After exploring the village a bit more, he finds various paintings and relics of fetuses with wings, and in the local church he sees pictures of various enigmatic figures including Mother Miranda. He runs into more villagers, a woman named Elena and her injured father, Leonardo. They want to go to Louisa's house, however, it's locked from the other side. Making his way around and unlocking it, he calls for both of them to come through. Knocking on the door leads to a not so warm welcome by another villager, Lulian. However, Louisa breaks this up and welcomes the three into her home.
Well, if Elena trusts you, then so do I. Come inside, Ethan.
Ethan meets what seems like the last remaining members of the village. Louisa explains that they were once a quiet, devout village, but then the monsters came and started to attack them. In order to get protection from the Lycans, the villagers start to pray to Mother Miranda.
Great ones, hear our voice. Together as one in reverence, we call on thee within the endless dark to deliver us into fate's hands. As the midnight moon rises on black wings, so we make our sacrifice and await the light at the end. In life and in death, we give you glory, Mother Miranda.
Now, this, alongside the other relics seen so far, hint to the fact that these locals aren't practicing your average religion. Something is afoot. After praying, Leonardo starts screaming in pain, dropping the lantern and causing a fire to start. In a fit of rage, he kills Louisa. He seems to act more like a Lycan than human. With most people either dead or consumed by fire, Leonardo jumps at Ethan. However, Elena shoots her father with a shotgun, saving Ethan. With the fire spreading, they act quick. After finding a few key items and failing to use the car and do a Fast and Furious 7, Ethan and Elena make their way up the house to the attic, escaping the fire. They find a way out and are about to leave. However, a grief-stricken Elena, consumed by despair, questions what will happen next. How will they survive the outside? Ethan, still resolute in finding his daughter, tells Elena that Rose might be in the castle, to which Elena replies,
No, that place is full of nothing but blood and death, and I don't want to be alone while you're...
It seems like Leonardo, or what's left of him, is still alive. In spite of Ethan's warnings, Elena still goes to her father, but with her way back consumed by fire, her fate is now sealed.
Elena, don't give up! Reach for me! God damn it! Why is everyone dying on me?
Afflicted with failure and despair, Ethan makes his way out. He then hears a gunshot. Opening the gate, he sees Lulian, grabbed by a mysterious figure who he calls
Mother Miranda! Hey!
He meets the old hag again, who states how death has visited all the villagers, and starts drawing the same odd fetus wing symbol, and gives us this charismatic laugh. Ethan makes his way towards the castle. On his way, he meets Karl Heisenberg.
Who the fuck are you?
Heisenberg starts flexing his magneto powers and captures him.
Mother Miranda's gonna love you.
He then takes Ethan to a meeting where Mother Miranda and the other lords of the village are at. These are all the main antagonists of the game. These lords are Donna Beneviento with her doll Angie, Salvatore Moreau, Alcina Dimitrescu, and Karl Heisenberg. The meeting is about who should take Ethan. Both Lady Dimitrescu and Heisenberg have a heated debate. Lady Dimitrescu wants him for cannibalistic reasons, while Heisenberg wants to make a show out of him. Mother Miranda breaks the argument and chooses Heisenberg.
Yes! My decision is final. There will be no argument. Remember from whence you came.
Thank you.
Lycans!
And gentlemen, we thank you for waiting. And now let the games begin. Let's see what you're doing. Ethan Winters. Get ready. No, wait! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Not knowing what he's in for, Ethan jumps into the tunnel and starts a few trials. Basically, each one of these trials are meant to kill him. He even bumps into the big lad.
Oh, you don't think I'd let you get away? Gotta keep Donna Moreau entertained.
After going through all of them and barely escaping the last trial, he finds his way to the castle, also known as Castle Dimitrescu.
Oh, be careful what you wish for, Ethan Winters.
Before he enters the castle, he meets the real MVP of Resident Evil Village, the Duke.
I've been waiting for you, Mr. Winters.
How do you know my name?
Anyone who is anyone has heard of the likes of you. A hero searching for his daughter. Though I must say, that castle arouses suspicion.
Yeah, and so do you.
I am but a humble merchant.
Here?
Oh, forgive my manners. Call me the Duke.
Now, the Duke acts like the merchant character as seen in Resident Evil 4. He allows Ethan to buy and sell limited ammo, healing items, guns, and upgrades. After entering the castle and exploring for a bit, Ethan is yet again captured.
Man blood. Mother, I bring you fresh prey.
You are so kind to me, daughters. Now, let's take a look at him. Well, Ethan Winters.
On meeting Lady Dimitrescu, she is surprised that Ethan survived, and after tasting his blood and remarking how stale it is, she orders the daughters to hang him up and leaves to call Mother Miranda.
Oh, be careful what you wish for, Ethan Winters.
Ethan rips his hands out of the hooks and heals himself with magical juice. As he looks around, he meets the Duke again, who suggests that Rose may be in the private chambers of Lady Dimitrescu. He goes deeper into the castle and meets one of the daughters, Cassandra. At this moment, she is basically invincible because of her bug powers, so Ethan runs. She chases him until he falls down into the wine cellar. From here he enters the dungeons, and this is where he meets the main fodder enemy of the castle, known as the Moroika, women who are turned into zombies through experimentations. Documents around the castle state that female servants who made any sort of mistake, big or small, had gone through experimentations as punishment. The castle also uses blood of the male villagers to make wine. Their hollow corpses propped up as scarecrows near the entrance of the castle. As he fights them and makes his way back up, he meets another daughter, Bella.
Bullets cannot harm. You stupid man thing!
While these daughters are not weak to light, as the vampire trope would suggest, they are however weak to the cold Eastern European wind. With the wind crippling her of her bug powers, Ethan can now fight her. After killing her, he explores the castle, solving various puzzles, killing more Moroikas, and opening up new areas. Eventually he finds his way to Lady Dimitrescu's chambers. Apparently there is some sort of ritual happening, and Lady D knows Ethan killed one of her daughters, and she ain't happy.
To hell with the ceremony! That man will pay for what he's done.
He enters her chambers to find out that Rose isn't there, and as he is about to leave...
Oh shit.
There you are. All this for a child who isn't even here.
What the hell do...
You ungrateful, selfish wretch! You come into my house! You lay your filthy man-hands on my daughters! And now you even try to steal my property! How dare you! Rest while you can! Because I will hunt you, and I will break you!
Ethan makes his way to another dungeon and tries to open one of the gates.
Like I'd let you get away. You'll be sliced to ribbons.
It's gotta be said that this isn't Ethan's first rodeo. After grabbing his own hand, escaping her, and finding a weird-looking mask, and using more magical juice,
Good. What the fuck?
from now on Lady Dimitrescu will try to find Ethan and kill him. Cold wind doesn't affect her, and she is immune to all types of damage. With no Rose here, Ethan's only option is to get out of the castle. There's only one way out, and it requires 4 different masks. He has one of them, and so searches for the others. He again encounters Cassandra in the arsenal room. Using a pipe bomb to blow a hole in the wall, he cripples her and then he finishes her off. After grabbing the second mask, he goes to the library, and this is where he encounters the last daughter, Daniela. Here, he opens the overhead roof, weakening and killing her, and takes the third mask. With all 3 daughters dead, he has one more mask left, and that's on the roof. Ethan also learns more about the daughters. They aren't Lady Dimitrescu's biological daughters, but her experimentations in which she used some sort of parasite. Bugs start to grow on their bodies, and these bugs can regenerate matter and help the host disperse. The only problem is that these bugs are very sensitive to changes in temperature and die in the cold. On the rooftop he finds another document which hints a way to weaken Lady Dimitrescu. The dagger of death flowers is imbued with all sorts of poisons and was made by someone trying to kill Lady Dimitrescu many years ago. However, he failed, but the dagger itself is kept somewhere safe. After completing a few more puzzles and fighting the flying variant of the Moroika, Ethan finally gets the last remaining mask. Using them opens a passageway to another tower. In the tower he finds a coffin, and opening it reveals the fabled dagger. But before Ethan could plan what to do next, he is rudely interrupted.
You've ruined everything!
Mutated into something like that of a Bloodborne-inspired dragon, Lady Dimitrescu shows her true self. The dagger did not only mutate her, but also made her vulnerable to damage. After an extensive battle with her, she finally succumbs. cursing Ethan as he dies. On his way out, he finds an odd-looking flask and takes it. He heads to an underground cave where he meets the old hag again. Still off her rocker, she tells Ethan that Rose's life would be sacrificed. However, if he finds all 4 family crests, then he will be able to save her. After this cryptic message, he finds a key, and this key helps to open up various doors around the village. As he makes his way back to the village, he passes a large area with 4 statues. Each statue representing a lord. There is an engraving in the middle of the area, meaning that something can be inserted there. However, he moves on and meets the Duke again.
Picked up something of value.
Not sure if it's of value, but...
Why, you have your daughter right in your own hands.
What are you saying?
Take a closer look. That flask seems to contain her head.
So yes, the flask contains Rose's head, and there are 3 more like it, with various body parts of Rose in them. Each one of the flasks is in the possession of the lords, and it has its respective family crest on it. This is what the hag was hinting to earlier. However, the Duke reassures Ethan that Rose isn't exactly dead, but in some sort of stasis. He points to Ethan to go to the house with the red chimney on it, as he might find some answers there. After going to the house with the red chimney, Ethan is able to upgrade the key he just got, and he creates the expanded wing key. This expanded wing key now can open up the door to the next lord, Donna Beneviento.
Before my friends murder you! Tick-tock! Your life's son alive.
Wait!
On the way there, Ethan starts to see visions of Mia and Rose.
Ethan, come with me. There's something I have to tell you.
Mia? What's going on?
Dolls, glowing plants, and pushchairs are littered throughout, with a fog enveloping most of the area. After crossing a bridge and going past a large grave, he arrives to a door with a message to give up your memories.
What's going on?
A creepy elevator scene later, he reaches House Beneviento. It's literally a normal house, slightly big, but nothing like Castle Dimitrescu, and yet something is off. While exploring the house, Ethan comes across doll-making stuff, a painting of Donna and Angie, some documents about a flower, and yes, more dolls. It's quiet, a little bit too quiet. He finds another elevator which takes him down further to the bottom floor. Music can be heard. Following the sound leads him to a room with Angie. She has a glass jar but seems inactive. Reaching out to it, however,
I've been waiting for so long. I'd make a much better daughter than Rose. Please, won't you stay with me forever?
What? Wait, where's my gun?
his weapons have magically disappeared. Adding to this, a creepy doll of Mia has appeared, and the elevator Ethan used to come down isn't working anymore. Next to the creepy doll of Mia is a picture of Mia's corpse when she was shot by Chris. Remember that, right?
Sorry, Ethan.
So this whole level is mainly a puzzle game. You as the player can pull the doll apart to find various items, use those items to unlock other doors and figure out other puzzles, and also find items around the area such as the scissors which could open up the doll even further. Each time you solve a few puzzles, you get to hear Angie's voice. She voices Ethan's own insecurities about Rose, taunting him.
I can't tell Ethan anything but this.
He also starts to see creepy versions of his wife throughout the level. Solving the puzzles gets Ethan access to the well. At this point I was half expecting Samara to jump out at me. He goes down the well and finds the elevator power box key. He reaches for it and grabs it. Could this be Rose? And going back to the main room, he finds that the mirror doll has disappeared. There's a fleshy long tube on the floor and is extending outside of the room. It looks like an umbilical cord. Now, the next part I'm not going to tell you, is better showing you my original reaction to this. Yeah, the 8-hour baby girl, but a big demonic baby thing. Remember, he can't use any weapons, and this baby, as much as it's calling him Dada, it will literally one-shot him if he gets too close. Ethan finds his way around and goes straight to the power box. Using the key and opening it up gives him another puzzle. Ethan runs to where the puzzle could be with the baby in hot pursuit. Finding the door and opening it seems to stop the baby from chasing him, for the time being. He enters the bedroom and sees areas where he could hide in, such as the closet or under the bed. There's a power fuse. Taking it switches off the lights. Well, Ethan is glad that that's over. As he comes back up, he finally meets Donna Beneviento.
Don't leave. I can't let you.
You're still alive, huh? Cool. Before my friends murder you! TikTok! Your life's alive.
Wait!
This boss fight is basically a hide-and-seek game. He has to find the wretched doll and stab it with the scissors. Each time he finds the doll, he stabs it, and with the third stab, it lifts the veil. Ethan realizes he was under some sort of hallucination. Killing Donna broke the spell. Now, from the various documents found, Donna was able to control plants which secreted a pheromone that gave people hallucinations. She could also control dolls, but that is something that we should delve into a bit later. He takes the second flask which contains Rose's legs, and his wing key is upgraded. Now he should be able to open the door to the next lord, Salvatore Moreau.
Wait, please. If you take it, then the others will laugh at me. But if I do better than them...
What do I care?
Wait, just a little longer, please.
On the way to Salvatore Moreau, Ethan has a surprise encounter. Now this is a Varkulak, a lichen that's more wolf than man. A true werewolf, but minus the full moon. Killing these aren't easy. They act as mini-bosses Killing them is best done when you have a ton of ammo, spare healing items, and a place to hide from time to time. After killing it, Ethan goes towards Moreau's area. Green jelly-like mass has covered the path. He reaches the mining area and eventually bumps into Moreau. However, Moreau at first doesn't notice him.
Mother Miranda,
Who wish
if it's for
I
you,
could be
I'd do anything.
part of that world.
Jokes aside, while Moreau is distracted, Ethan stealthily takes the flask. However, before he could leave, Moreau becomes aware of his presence. He tells Ethan a sob story about himself. However, all of this is a ruse, as he starts plugging Ethan's way out with green mass. Ethan tries to find a way out, and as he explores, he finds out this area used to be some type of fishing village. Most of it, though, is underwater now. After he kills a few lichens and finds a boat key, he uses a boat to traverse the waters.
What was that?
He enters a shack and he encounters Chris and his team. Ethan is restrained by one of Chris's men and flat out tells Chris to kill him like he did to Mia. But before Chris could respond, he is informed by one of his team members that Miranda might be aware of the location and the team might have new info on the mold sample after testing it. Ethan demands more information about Miranda, but before Chris can say anything meaningful, a gigantic fish creature crashes the party.
Shit! Stay back!
Under all that cloth, this is Moreau's true form.
What are you talking about?
As it turns out, the giant fish creature is the mutated version of Moreau. Now from here, the game becomes a platforming game. Ethan can go from platform to platform, shooting any obstacles or using planks of wood to make pathways between various submerged rooftops. And while he does this, Moreau will try to get him. The main objective here is for Ethan to go to one of the windmills on the other side of the reservoir and use the crank to turn on the power. With the power back on, Ethan can now raise the dam, reducing the water in the area and weakening Moreau. Ethan gives chase in the now not-so underwater village. Once he corners him, it initiates the boss fight. After defeating him, the green mass blocking Ethan's way out is now gone. On the way back, Ethan finds a jar containing some weird-looking creature, labelled Kadu. Documents state that Moreau used this Kadu on the villagers. He used wolf blood during his experimentations, and this is what led to the lichens being formed, as the Kadu can splice genes of other creatures to humans, making something entirely unique. At this moment in the story, we don't exactly know what the Kadu is specifically, but in the Romanian language it means gift, and the word also originates from the French language. Before Ethan leaves, he gets a surprise call from Heisenberg. Apparently he wants to help Ethan get the last flask, but he himself doesn't have it. It's at a place called the Stronghold. With the ring key further upgraded, Ethan heads out. On his way back to the village, he notices signs pointing out to the Stronghold, likely made by Heisenberg, and so he follows.
That's not good.
Once he makes his way to the stronghold, he finds the place full of lichens. After killing them one by one and activating the 2 levers to open the main gate, he makes his way into the stronghold. This is where he fights endless amounts of lichens. As he travels deeper into their dwelling, he finally runs into
the big cheese.
That's not good.
Also known as Urias. Ethan fights him, defeats him, and gets the final flask. Heisenberg advises Ethan to put the flasks into the altar in order to save Rose. When he does so, Ethan gets flashbacks of when Rose was first abducted by Miranda, and another flashback of when the Lords were extracting her body parts. The altar is now movable and is known as the Chalice, so Ethan takes it and inserts it in the area where the 4 large statues are at. Once he does this, it raises a bridge to the last Lord, Karl Heisenberg.
Don't you get it? It's a test. To see if you're strong enough to be a part of Miranda's family.
I don't want to be a part of Miranda's family.
Neither did I, but here we are. And I'm next in line, right? Kill me, move up the chain.
As Ethan makes his way to the factory, Heisenberg assures Ethan that this is no trap. Ethan goes in and finds that Heisenberg has been making plans of his own. Heisenberg wants to cut a deal with Ethan. He thinks that Ethan killing the Lords was a test by Miranda to see if he can be part of Miranda's family. He offers Ethan a plan to save Rose and then to use Rose to kill Miranda.
You and me, Ethan. Together, we can go save Rose, and then we can use her to grind Miranda into paste.
My daughter is not a weapon.
Last chance. You don't want to find out what's in that hole.
I'll take my chances.
You're futile.
It is here when we come face to face with Strum. He's a guy with a propeller engine attached to his torso. So yeah, totally normal, no problem. At this point, Strum is basically invincible, so Ethan runs. Once he escapes a metal monstrosity, he finally gets to see what the factory is making. The enemies here are different. Some are similar to the Moreika, while others are a mix of flesh, metal and technology. These mechanical enemies are known as Soldat. According to documents, Heisenberg replaced the hearts of his subjects with the Keidu and stimulated their muscles with electricity. The Soldat are brain dead for the most part, leaving only destructive urges, and as such, their only objective is to destroy. As Ethan moves around, he is once again stopped by Strum, making Ethan take a detour. Heisenberg also shares his own personal grievances about Mother Miranda. She forcefully took Heisenberg and other children and subjected them to torturous experiments and enslaved them. In an act of rebellion, he made this mechanical army so he can go to war with her and free himself from her. After causing havoc in the factory and fighting many different types of Soldat, Ethan encounters Strum for the final time and kills it.
Now stay down.
He finally comes face to face with the Last Lord. However, Heisenberg becomes a massive cybernetic chainsaw monster, throwing Ethan back to the depths of the factory. Ethan is forced to find another way around. He finds someone who he used to trust.
I told you to leave it alone, Ethan.
During this altercation, Ethan finds out that the Mia Chris killed wasn't actually Mia, but Mother Miranda in disguise. She has the power to shapeshift. The reason why he didn't tell Ethan in the beginning is because he knew Ethan would have wanted to get involved. Chris further explains that Mother Miranda disguised herself as Mia's corpse until Chris's team started to transport them. That's when she abducted Rose. The village is basically Miranda's version of a large-scale, involuntary clinical trial. She can not only use the unsuspecting villagers who revere her as some sort of priestess and manipulate them into not only giving their children, but also take the adults and experiment them with the mold. Miranda is now in possession of all 4 flasks and will go ahead with her plans, so they need to act quick. Chris provides Ethan with a metal polymer tank. The tank itself cannot be easily controlled by Heisenberg's abilities, as it isn't made of pure metal. He has planted bombs all over the factory, ensuring that the metal army won't be used for anything nefarious. Using the tank, Ethan heads back up and fights a mutated Heisenberg. During the battle, Chris blows up the factory, stopping the Soldat army in its tracks. This prompts Heisenberg to exclaim,
That boulder punching it, but you're first.
A scene that felt like it was directed by Michael Bay. Ethan defeats Heisenberg by firing the tank while in mid-air.
This can't be the end for me! I must kill her!
Chris calls Ethan asking him what's the situation. Ethan relays to Chris the news that the Last Lord is now gone, prompting Chris to tell him to wait before he takes on Miranda. However, before Ethan can respond, he is confronted by the priestess herself. disguised as Mia. We find out that Rose is Evelyn's true successor, a complete form. Evelyn is the main antagonist from Resident Evil 7. So if you want to know a little bit more about her, then I would recommend you to look at the videos that I put in the description below. And the reason for all of this? All the death in the village, the experiments and the suffering made by Miranda? Well, it was done so that she could resurrect her own daughter, Ava. Miranda goes on to say that the mold catalogues people, their consciousness and memories. So in theory, she would be able to insert her daughter's consciousness into a suitable vessel that has been infected by the mold, but not corrupted by it. Rose has inherited the mold from Mia, who previously was infected. But Rose is kind of unique as she doesn't show any signs of corruption, making her the perfect vessel. This would also explain everything that was happening in the village, as the lichens, the lords, and other experiments were due to Miranda's desire to find the perfect vessel. Yet all of them had something that Miranda deemed unfit. We also find out that Ethan was being guided by Miranda the whole time, as she was the hag all along. Heisenberg was right to an extent. Her plan was for Ethan to destroy the rest of the lords, as the lords were the only ones that could probably challenge her. Miranda also remarks how Ethan is a special case, however she has learned what she can from him. The odd thing here is that Heisenberg said something similar in one of his documents. Now, that's interesting. I wonder why they would say he's a bit of a special case. Ethan challenges Miranda to show herself, and well, let's say that when she does, Ethan doesn't have the heart for it anymore.
Don't worry. Your death will come quick. You will join the Megamycetes records. I will make sure to sample your blood for later. Once dawn breaks, the ceremony will be complete, and I will become her true mother, bound for eternity in blood. I've waited so long, but dreams really can come true. Vessel or not, I can't wait to see my true child again.
Terminate Miranda and rescue Rose. That's the mission. And failure's not an option.
Let's have some fun, people. Like old times.
Move out.
Roger. Okay.
Now we play as the balding punching lad himself, Chris Redfield. A member from his squad confirms Ethan's death, and Chris enacts a plan with his squad to get revenge on Miranda and to get back Rosemary. His team notices BSAA soldiers attempting to land. Now this is a kind of a side plot and it will be explained later. Chris starts his assault, wrecking through the village, killing lichens and Rakalak. His main objective at this point is to get to the mold route, which is underground. However, various fungal roots have appeared around the village and have dramatically changed the geography. After punching his way through enemies and destroying the mold construct with the help of his teammates, he is free to travel underground. He is told by his team how the mold in the village has no genome editing in comparison to the mold found in the Baker's estate during Resident Evil 7, meaning that the mold originated from this village. When he gets down, he finds Urias Strager guarding the mold route. Now this is Urias' older brother. With a little help from his teammates again, Chris defeats it and travels further to find the mold route. He finds it and it's in the shape of this kind of weird looking fetus and is very similar to the symbols found throughout the village and that of the Kadu. It seems like the religion of this village revolved around worshipping this thing, and Mother Miranda was probably acting as some sort of middle person. Chris arms an N2 neutron bomb and attaches it to the route. As he travels on asking his teammates to keep an eye on Miranda, he is criticized for not telling Ethan the truth from the start. Chris regrettably agrees. While having this conversation, he discovers Miranda's lab and a diary written by her. Miranda was a biologist and her daughter Ava died to the Spanish flu. Now, the Spanish flu happened in 1918, so Miranda is pretty old. After her daughter died, Miranda, in grief and despair, went to an underground cave so she could die alone. By chance, this is where she discovers the mold, and upon touching it and being infected by it, she experiences the memories and consciousness of villagers and people of the past. She finds out that once the mold root meets matter, it breaks it down and absorbs it, and since it's under the village, it has the memories and consciousness of her daughter. It was also after this realization where she started doing her experiments. She made the Kedo parasite by combining parasitic nematodes with the mold so the mold could work more efficaciously. Even though there were some successes like the Four Lords, most turned into the lichens or the Moroika. It also seems like Miranda had a big hand in the events of Resident Evil 7. The organization which made Evelyn, known as the Connection, had approached her beforehand. She had given them her daughter's DNA and also the mold, and this is what led to the creation of Evelyn. However, Evelyn was deemed unworthy by Miranda, but the Connections did help her by telling her about Rose. That's how she got to know about Ethan and Mia and where they were relocated to. We find out that the chalice Ethan used to put the 4 flasks into is known as a megamycete regulator. The splitting up of Rose was done to test her regenerative abilities, and the regulator will help her come back together again. But in the process, it will also add Ava's consciousness into Rose. Miranda also had written notes on her 4 children. Moreau was seen as a failure because of his low brain functions and his inability to control his appearance, and this was most likely due to his low affinity to the Kedu parasite. Lady Dimitrescu had a high affinity to the Kedu, but her blood disorder, which she had inherited beforehand, didn't get any better. To make sure she could maintain her regenerative abilities and not mutate into that dragon form that Ethan had fought earlier, she had to drink and eat human blood and flesh. When Ethan used the poison dagger on her, it caused her blood disorder to worsen and a need for more blood. Donna Beneviento showed favorable affinity for the Kedo and was able to control plants infected by the mold by producing a signaling substance. She is also able to divide her Kedu into her dolls, and this would explain how Angie could be controlled by her. However, she was seen as unfit due to her having some sort of mental illness. Karl Heisenberg seemed to have the highest affinity for the Kedu and is even called a splendid specimen by Miranda. He has electric organs which are connected to his nervous system, and this allows him to control magnetic fields, and so it explains the magneto powers. However, he was also seen as an unfit subject. This may be due to the fact that Miranda kinda knew his intentions of overthrowing her. Heisenberg turned out to be right at the end. All 4 of them were seen as experiments rather than family. Even though they were unfit to be Ava's vessel, Miranda still kept them close by, as they did control various areas of the village, and thus helped her plan in obtaining more test subjects. There is another letter by none other than Oswald E. Spencer, the founder of Umbrella.
I was to become a god.
Yeah, that guy from Resident Evil 5 and whose organization started everything in the original Resident Evil. He was rescued by Miranda while he was on a hiking trip during his young adult years as a medical student. Not long after, he became a protege and had learnt about the mold. Even though he respected her, he would later leave due to differences in goals. Namely, Miranda's was about reviving one person, and his was more about triggering humanity's next evolutionary step. He kept in touch with her, informing her about starting a company called Umbrella and discovering the progenitor virus, the virus that would later give rise to the T virus, the G virus, and Ouroboros. He used the symbol found on the megamycete regulator as a logo for Umbrella.
Show me your hands! Bryce, this is Alpha. Where is Miranda right now?
Still at the ceremony site. Whatever she's doing, she's staying put.
God damn. It really is you. I'm glad you're safe, Mia.
I was caught in Houston experiments.
Wait, did you say Mia? Mia Winters?
In the flesh. What's the situation up there?
After finding the real Mia, Chris tells her of Ethan's death. However, Mia can't accept it because, in her words,
I tried to keep this a secret, but you don't understand how special he is.
You're dead.
Dead? I mean, Miranda. She... No. I still have to save Rose.
We go back to Ethan. He isn't in the place he died before, but in some sort of cold wasteland, like some sort of purgatory between life and death. Ethan wanders around until he hears a familiar voice.
You're so dumb.
Evelyn? How are you here?
You're dead.
Ethan, knowing what happened to him, assumed that Miranda actually killed him. However, Evelyn drops the bombshell that Ethan has been dead long before that. In Evelyn's words,
Wrong. It wasn't Miranda. You were always dead.
What are you saying? I can still...
You mean you didn't think it was weird? No matter how much you got hurt? Remember.
he died in Resident Evil 7 near the beginning of the game when he is first confronted by Jack. So basically, Ethan is a kind of a fungal zombie minus the brain dead state. When he died in the first game, he was infected with the mold, but rather than turning him into the molded, he was kept alive by it, gaining regenerative abilities. After learning the truth, Evelyn tells him that he will never see his family again, fueling the fire within Ethan to overcome death and help his daughter one last time.
You're already dead.
I will save Rose!
He wakes up in the Duke's carriage. It seems like the Duke saved him and is now taking him to Miranda. Ethan asks why the Duke would help him, or what even is he? The Duke, being the Duke, says,
Even I can't quite answer that.
The Duke explains how Ethan's body can't take any more damage as he's used up what the mold has to offer. After giving his last goodbye to the Duke, Ethan sets off to meet Mother Miranda. Miranda tries to resurrect Ava, however, to her surprise, Rosemary was resurrected instead, and it caused Miranda to lose some of her control over the mold. Chris causes a distraction, and in a scene very reminiscent of Bioshock Infinite, Ethan and Miranda wrestle over Rose.
I've spent a lifetime creating this moment, and you try to take it away from me. I will take what is due. My desires will be fulfilled. Rose is mine!
And this is where our final boss battle occurs. After a few different forms of Miranda and a whole load of bullets, Ethan manages to finally defeat her.
My daughter! My Eva!
Ethan takes his daughter in his arms, however his battle with Miranda has caused his body to deteriorate. It seems like there is no going back from the damage he has sustained. The mold root has now merged with Miranda's consciousness and under her influence is in pursuit of them. Knowing he can't go any further, Ethan stops. Chris protests and tells Ethan that Mia is still alive, but Ethan, knowing that nothing can be done about him, gives Rose his ring and wraps his coat around her.
Watch over her. Teach her to be strong. God damn it. Goodbye, Rosemary.
Chris, acknowledging his resolve, takes Rose back to the transport. We head back to Ethan with the mold root coming closer. He comes face to face with it, taking his last stand. Noticing Ethan isn't with Chris, Mia demands where he is as they fly away. Feeling the effects of the explosion, Chris reluctantly tells Mia on how Ethan wanted to sacrifice himself so they could escape.
What was that?
I told you to sit down.
Where is he? Chris? What have you done?
He's gone. I tried. He stayed so we could all escape. I'm sorry.
Captain.
One of the members of Chris's team informed him that the BSAA soldiers that were sent to the village are actually a bioweapon, which is odd since the BSAA is an organization which fights against bioterrorism and bioweapons, seeding in plot threads for the next game. During the credits, we see the ending of the Village of Shadows tale. The girl's parents find the witch, and while the father fights her, the mother rescues the daughter. The father sacrifices himself so that the mother and the daughter can escape.
Do you think the little boy will be able to touch the moon?
Nobody can touch the moon, it's too far away.
Wait, what if he has a rocket ship?
Okay, then you can touch it, but it'd be very, very cold.
Years later, we follow a grown-up Rosemary on a bus with the book in hand. She departs the bus and visits her father's grave. She gives him a belated birthday wish.
Hey, Dad. Happy birthday. Sorry I missed last week. I have a lot of tests coming up. You know how it is.
A car arrives and the agent steps out, which adds to Rose's frustration. As she goes to the car, the agent jokes by calling Rose Evelyn. Not amused, Rose threatens him by saying that she could do things that even Chris doesn't know about, hinting at some sort of mold abilities that she might have. Knowing that she lost her temper, she goes into the car, with the agent ordering a sniper to stand down, telling him that she is still young. Both in the car, the agent remarks how Rose is a lot like her father, making Rose smile. As they drive off, you see an unknown figure approaching the car, and the car stops. Wow, that's it for the story of Resident Evil Village. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in part 2.